Hello guys, Mohsin here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel Cloud with Mohsin. Guys, in the previous session we had covered AWS Well Architected Framework, and in today's session I'm going to focus on we can have a deep dive of AWS Well Architected Tool. That tool will help us to align with the best practices. So just to quickly summarize what was we discussed in the previous topic. The AWS Well Architected Framework, it defines a set of foundational questions that enables us to understand how a specific architecture aligns with the cloud best practices. Okay, and if you remember, we had discussed about this framework in detail. So there are total six pillars, key pillars you can say for the AWS Well Architected Framework. Those pillars are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. Okay, so I have logged into my AWS Management Console, and we can navigate to, once you have logged in, you can navigate to management and governance. Okay, and after you log into navigate to management and governance, you will see AWS Well Architected Tool. Okay, so this is the tool from where we can align our workload along with the best practices with those six pillars. As you can see, once you are logged in, you can see how it works, benefits and features and everything. Okay, so simply what we can do is we can click on define workload here, and this will bring you to this page. So here we can specify some of the properties. So now what is the workload? So workload, you can say a set of components, or you can say a simple a system. Okay, so say you have defined an architecture in the cloud, and you want to understand, or you want to make sure whether this is aligned with the, or it's following the whatever the best practices that AWS follows. Then we can define a workload here. So here we can give a name. Okay, and the description and about this some of the details. So as we can go back, see, I have defined this one 3-tier system. Okay, so I will just click on this one so that you'll get to know. So here if we go to properties, I had given the name that 3-tier system. Okay, so owner will be your AWS account ID. Okay, so as you can see, this is the same ARN that will be provided by AWS once we had done this, and in the description that we have to give some description. So basically what I did is this is some, say considering I have a 3-tier system. The 3 tiers are consisting of web tier, application tier and database tier. Then what is my web tier and app tier consist of? So those are hosted on minimum 2 EC2 instances in auto scaling group. So I had given some of the property like it should have minimum 2, desired 2 and maximum 4 EC2 instance in the auto scaling group. So if you are not sure about how auto scaling work and all those things, so please check out my video on this thing. Then about DB tier, it's like I wish to have it's as a RDS, like it's MySQL instance with multi AAZ. It means there should be instances in the multiple availability zone. Okay, again web and app tier will be on behind public and private application load balancers. Okay, so again if you are not sure about how application load balancer works, so you can check out my previous video. So this is something, it's very simple. As you can see, the workload status, everything you can define. So I had initiated as not started, then you can update it like if whether it is in progress or complete or risk acknowledged. Okay, so these are the 4 statuses as you can see. If we wish, we can check activate the AWS trusted advisor. So again, trusted advisor we have not covered so far, but whatever basically what it does is trusted advisor will keep us recommendations. Okay, say for example, if I have a security group on my EC2 instance and that is open to the world, okay, that is it's having like 0000/0, so it's publicly open. So trusted advisor will recommend us that it won't take any action, but it will just suggest us that okay, this security group is open, is having some inbound rules or outbound rules which are open to the world or to the internet. So these kind of recommendations we can get with the trusted advisor. Okay, tags, it's optional. We can assign some tags, so that is it. So now what I wanted to show you, if I click on continue reviewing and AWS Well Architected Framework, now you can see there are, as we have 6 pillars. So as you can see, operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, sustainability. So it is asking us questions for the each of this pillar. Say if I let's start with the first one, just to for your understanding. If I click with operational excellence, and there are total 11 questions, as you can see. So I have already marked these questions, so there were total 57 questions, and these questions are basically for AWS framework to understand what is its more details about your framework, so that it will suggest you whether it is aligned with all those best practices. Okay, now first let's talk about the first example. How do you determine what your priorities are? Okay, here a little bit information with respect to this question. Everyone needs to understand their part in enabling business success, have shared goals in order to set priorities for resources. This will maximize benefit for your effort. So this is a little bit information just for us to respond to these questions. Okay, now there are, as you can see, a different set of answers here. So it's not like we can select only one, but we can select multiple options here. If there is no option that matching to this requirement with respect to our workload, we can select as none of these. Okay, so for me it is like evaluate internal customer needs, and there's a button as well. So if we wish to understand what is about this evaluate external customer needs, I can click on this one, and it will give me some information here. So when, if say my answer is evaluate external customer need, this involves key stakeholders including business development and operations team to determine whether to focus efforts on external customer needs. This will ensure that you have a thorough understanding of the operation support that is required to achieve your desired business outcome. So this is what the info it has suggested. Okay, so if that is matching to our workload, then we can select, and we can select, as I earlier discussed, multiple questions. If we go down, there's another option, mark best practices that don't apply to this workload. If it is not applicable, we can select that as well. Okay, so say for example, let's again talk about the first option, evaluate external customer needs. If say this option is not applicable with respect to your workload, we can mark it as here like this, and we can specify a reason. Now you can see these are absolutely optional, so it's up to us if we want to respond to this, or it's we can leave it, so that is not a problem. So just for your understanding, if I say click on this one, and why this reason is not applicable, if say it is out of scope, so if say this workload or this specific option is not applicable, or it's out of scope, or due to business priority or architecture constraint or other. Okay, so based on that, these could be one of the reason, so that this option is it's do not apply to those workload. Okay, so basically like that. So we can select it. If we want some notes here, we can put and click on next. So like that, as you can see, there were 11 questions, so there are different questions. So those are to for AWS framework to understand more about our workload. Then similarly, we have some security questions, so I can just randomly check some of the security questions as well. Say, how do you securely operate your workload? Okay, now if we go for this one, again there's some little bit information, and I had selected, say, for how to securely operate our workload. What I had selected is can secure account, that root level access and properties, like root level user. So I won't share what are the root level permissions or credentials. It will be absolutely in order to secure our workload. Then who will be trying to access our workload. Then identify and validate control objective, keep up to date with your security threats. Okay, so this will help us. So because when we are up to date with the security threats, so we are more secure. Keep up to date with security recommendations, whatever we are getting, as we covered in the previous question. In the trusted advisor, we get some security recommendation we can follow. Okay, like that. Identify and prioritize risk using a threat model, automate testing, evaluate and implement new security services and features regularly. So you can see I have selected multiple options here for this one. Okay, like that. Okay, let me take randomly this question: how do you protect how do you protect your data at rest? So basically data at rest is data that is stored in the storage devices, like in the, say, if we have our data that is stored in the S3 bucket or EBS or like that. So what about the security of that data that is protected? So basically, see, as you can see, protect your data at rest by implementing multiple controls to reduce the risk of unauthorized access or mishandling. Here what I had selected is to enforce security encryption at the rest. So it's based on our requirement, or based on whatever we want with respect to workload we can select. So I had selected this one so that we can enforce the encryption of the data at rest, and that will be help us to protect our data at rest. Okay, so that, like that, I had selected. Again, let me take each question in one of the pillar. Okay, now let's talk about reliability. So reliability is basically our system, how it will be functioning, as whether it's functioning as expected. Okay, so I can take this one: how do you manage service quotas and constraints? So for each service we use in the AWS, there are some limitations, or you can say not limitation, there will be some service quotas. Okay, say let me give you an example. If we want to create some IAM users for particularly for in that, so there will be some limitations, like there will be some limit of how many numbers of IAM users, or say I need to create a VPCs, okay, virtual private cloud. So there will be some limit, like maximum how many VPCs that we can create in that particular account for that particular region. Okay, so these are called as quotas and service limits. So with respect to how do we manage service quotas and constraint, what I have selected is manage service quotas across account and regions. Okay, like that. And it's like just give you a little bit information about service quotas. So say we have reached a service quota limit, and then we can request AWS to get additional quotas. Okay, so just to add with respect to this question, so we can get some request to add the quota limit. Okay, so I had selected this one. Again, let me go to performance efficiency. So performance efficiency basically talks about how performant is our system. Okay, now I can randomly take any of the question, like how do you, let me take question this one: how do you select and configure networking resources in your workload? Okay, the information about this question is the optimal networking solution for a workload varies based on latency, throughput requirement, jitter and bandwidth. Physical constraints such as user or on-premises resources determine location options. These constraints can be offset with edge locations or resource placement. So edge locations are something, those work as a caching. So the most recently used information is held at the edge locations. Okay, so that is about edge locations. So now for this question, what I had selected is understand how networking impacts and the performance. Okay, so I will consider these things like evaluate available networking features, then use load balancing to distribute traffic across multiple resources, choose network protocols to improve performance, choose your workload's location based on network performance. So with respect to latency, so I had selected these options with respect to this. Okay, so like that, like again, let's go with the cost optimization. Now this question, let me take how do you monitor your cost and usage. So basically we can configure billing and cost management tools, okay, so that we can get some alerts whenever our budgeted amount is has reached that threshold limits. So accordingly we can do. So we can select whatever based on our requirement. Okay. And finally about sustainability as well. Okay. Now sustainability, I'll take one question. How do you select regions for your workload? Choose region based on both business requirement and sustainability goals. So this is what I will select. Okay, or this one. So these are all the 57 questions, and once we are done, okay, say we have done with all these questions, then we can go back here and based on our questions, okay, we can see it's overall risk. So what are the overall risks? So out of those 57, which are the overall risk? uh, there I can see high risk point are 37, medium risk are 12. Okay. Now next risk to address, how do you determine what your priorities are? It's a high risk. Okay. Now you can, as you can see, recommended improvement items. So this will suggest us these are what are the recommended items like that. Now let me click on high risk points. Okay. So you can see how do you determine what your priorities are. There are some recommendations. How do you structure your organization support your business outcome? This is again high risk as it has identified and their recommendation to improve it. So like that, this will be aligned to the AWS Well Architected Framework, and it will give us what are the recommendations. And one thing to note, guys, is this tool. This is absolutely free to use. Only the underlying uses, resources will be charged. Okay, so we can use this tool, and it's absolutely free of cost. Okay, so that is the most important thing that you can understand. So there are lots of things, so please explore this, and it's more, you will see it's very interesting one. Okay, we can also define some milestones. If say milestone means we have achieved one, some of the stages are completed in that, so we can achieve it as a milestone here in our workload. So for example, here you can go to milestone, and we can there is no milestone here. Okay, so like that we can do the properties that we just discussed. So it will give us all those details about the workload and all these things, and shares. So he basically shares to other principal. So this talks about the shares. Okay, we can go to actions, and we can do according, or we can create as well. So say we can create shares to IAM users or create shares to organization. So this can be shared with other IAM users or the other accounts or into organization. So if I select shares to organization, then it will give me, so it will work accordingly. So to grant permission to entire organization or individual OU. So organizations we have not covered so far, but basically this is, you can say, a centralized management, you can say, and that will help. Say how we have multiple accounts, so under AWS organization we can club all those accounts so that we can have governance across central governance. So let's say if I click on grant permission to the entire organization, so this is, it will create ID. If I click on create, and the permission will be, what will be the permission? If it is read only, I can create the same. You can see. So I can see an error, failed to create workload share. Please work with your organization administrator to enable sharing. So we can work accordingly. So there are some permissions are required, and so the idea is we can share whatever the workload is. Okay, there's well architected tool, and these all those things with the other account as well as other IAM user. So friends, that's it for today. I hope you got to understand how the AWS Well Architected Framework works. Okay, and how we can use the AWS Well Architected tool, and that will give us some recommendations based on our workload and based on our the responses that we provide to it. So thanks for watching, friends, and see you in the next chapter. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.